Hello, I'm Brianna, and in this video I'm going to go over a lot of things having to do with Bash, mostly the basics. We're going to start off really basic, like what is Bash, what is that, how do I even get around, all the way through configuration, using different types of scripts with Bash, so hopefully at the end you'll feel a little bit more comfortable working in the terminal. So starting off, as you can see, Bash is a terminal. It is the terminal used on Mac and Linux by default, so it's a little bit different than PowerShell. When people say terminal, it could mean a lot of different things. It could mean Bash, it could mean something like ZSH shell, which is kind of similar, or PowerShell, but this is all about Bash. So we opened up Bash. I opened up my terminal application on my Mac computer, and the very first thing that I want to type, so it's kind of intimidating if you've never been here before, but I want to just do echo and then I'm $0, so echo space $0. This, I click enter, return. This says Bash, so this is just confirming that I am in Bash. So find your terminal, type echo space $0. If it says Bash, then you're in the right spot. Whatever I type today should work for you as well, unless you have some different configuration set up. So we're here. We don't know what here is other than Bash. So I'm going to type PWD. So PWD stands for Print Working Directory. And that just means it's going to print out wherever I currently am. So currently I'm in my computer's users directory and then GitHub teacher. So that's the user that I'm logged into right now. I can use PWD at any time to know where I am, which is pretty helpful. The next command I want to show is called ls. So ls is going to list whatever's in my current directory, if there's any files or other directories. So here I see I have applications, documents, library, what you'd expect. We also have ls space -al. Let's see if there's any hidden files here. And it also gives us some more information. We see all these letters on the left. We'll talk about those later. The owner of the file, their permission level. And then here the dot in front of a file means it's a hidden file. So when I just did ls, I wasn't able to see those files like .trash, .atom, .bash history, which we'll talk about soon. So know that ls and ls-al are there so that you can see what's going on in the directory that you're currently in. When I list my files and directories, I see documents, downloads, all these things. I want to make a new folder, a new directory called projects. So I'm going to do mkdir for make directory, and then space, and then projects. I do a capital P here. So I type mkdir projects, hit enter, it tells me nothing. But if I do ls, I can see now I have a projects directory that I didn't have before. So I just created an empty file, that's it, using mkdir. So I've made this directory, but I'm not currently in it, right? If I do pwd, I'm still in my GitHub teacher directory. So to change directories, I'll do cd projects, cd space projects. What you see on the left-hand side changes a little bit. That'll depend on what configurations, that can look different from computer to computer, especially with developers that have been using Bash for a while. If I do pwd now, it's a little different. So before I was just in GitHub teacher, now I'm in GitHub teacher /project. So I created the directory and then changed directory into it. If I do ls here, we see nothing, ls-al. I just see these dots, which means I can go back. So we've changed directory into a directory, but like maybe I want to go back. Let's say I want to go back to being in this GitHub teacher directory. I can type, come back terminal, I'll type cd space ... Now if I do pwd, I'm back in GitHub teacher. No big deal. We've created a directory. It's good to know how to get rid of a directory just in case. So if you need to delete a directory, you can do rmdir. So mkdir to create, rmdir, and then I'll do projects. So the one I just created, I'm just going to scrap it. Now if I do ls, not ld, if I do ls, then projects is no longer there. Even if I do ls-al, it's not there anymore. I'll go ahead and recreate that. mkdir projects, just so that we have something we're going to keep making some changes. But now you've seen a lot of the basics. We know how to navigate around. We know where we are with pwd. We can change directories with cd, both forwards and backwards. list the files in any given directory, make directories, delete directories. It's already a lot, right? With just a few really basic commands. Hopefully by now you already are figuring out there's nothing to be afraid of when you're in the terminal. Let's talk a little bit about working with files. So we've talked about directories. Let's work with files. All files are case sensitive with Bash. This is important to consider as you might be working with another program, like maybe you're working with Git. And the way Git or any program handles case sensitivity might be different than how Bash handles case sensitivity. So keep in mind, Bash is case sensitive. Let's cd into that project, change directories into projects, and I'm going to make a new file because we do ls, we see there's nothing. To create a new empty file, I'm just going to type touch. I'll call it file1.md for Markdown, the file format that I use a lot. Press return, and it tells me nothing. If I do ls, now I see I have this file1.md. If I do ls-al, I've still got those dot files, but file1.md, see who it's owned by, and the letters are a little different, but we'll get there. Creating a file, pretty easy. To delete that file, rm, just rm file1.md. Now it's no longer there. Some different ways we can manipulate files. I'll go ahead and make this file again. We'll call it file2.md. I've created this file. Let's say I want to copy this file. So I want to make a duplicate. I'm going to type cp file2.md and then the name that I want the new copy to have. So I'm going to call this file2copy.md. As soon as I do that, if I do ls, I see I've got these two files here. They're empty, they're both empty, but if file2 had some contents in it, that would now be mapped exactly to file2copy. You can also rename files just really simply. So if I do mv, let's say I want file2copy, this new file, I want that to just be called file3. So I'll do mv file2copy.md, the old name, and then the new name. I'm gonna call it file3. If I do lsal, file2 copies now have been renamed to file3. Pretty straightforward. So far, since we've started working with files, we've used touch, rm, mv, and cp. So touch creates a file, rm removes it, cp copies it and creates another one, and mv just renames it or moves it to a different file name. We also have cat for concatenate. So this is a way to create single or multiple files. You can view the contents of a file, you can link files together, so view multiple files, redirect output in terminal files. There's a lot you can do with cat. Since these two files are empty right now, let's put some things in there. So let's do that with vi. So vi is kind of a different level. So bash and terminal can already be intimidating. Vi, I would say, is another level. Vi is a text editor within the terminal. You might hear people also Vim and Vi are different. I don't use either one regularly, so I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who can go into a lot more detail than I can, but it's important to know a little bit about Vi. You might end up in Vi by accident, and it doesn't behave necessarily how you'd think. So let's use it. To use Vi, let's add some contents to file2. So I'm going to type vi space file2.md. It's going to open up file2 in Vi. So already it looks very different. If I tried to just type anything, it might not work. Once you're in Vi mode, to actually insert, you press I or J. So there's two modes of Vi. There's insert and command. So I'm going to type I hit I on my keyboard, and now we can see at the bottom it says insert. Now I'm able to type. So I'm going to say file2 is the best file in the entire directory. So I've made my changes. Now what do I want to do, right? How do I get out? If I press enter, it just goes down. I think that's like, how do I get out of Vi is the most asked question on Stack Overflow. So here we are. How do we get out of Vi? First, we need to get into that command mode, right? So I'm going to press escape. We see the insert is gone at the bottom. I'm going to shift, so it's colon, and now we can see that at the bottom. That's putting us into command mode. W for write, because I want to save these changes, and Q for quit. I could just do Q and it wouldn't save, but WQ will save and quit. So hit enter. So that's it. I'm out of VI. Let's do that again. Let's do it for file 3. So I'm going to open VI file3.md. First thing I do is type I to begin insert mode. Start typing. File 3 is a pretty good file 2. Now, my instinct as somebody who uses a computer is to do Command S or Control S to save, but that will not work in VI the same way it'll work in other programs. To get out of this, I'm going to hit Escape to get out of insert mode, :WQ, and enter. And we're done. So we've kind of done these basics of VI, just the need to know basics to how to get out and how to get in, how to make some changes. Let's use that cat command. So you're going to do cat file2.md, and it prints out just the contents of file 2 that I just put in there. I can do cat file2.md, file3.md, so I'm doing 2 different files, and it prints out both of the contents for both of the files. So far we've done a lot, right? We've worked with directories, how to get around. If I do pwd, the first thing we really talked about, I'm still in my projects directory. ls, I still have these 2 files here, file 2 and file 3. Let's talk a little bit about how to configure your bash shell. So what that means is right now my bash is pretty monotone. There's just white and black. If you ever see somebody else working in a terminal, whether it's on a video or in person, sitting next to somebody on an airplane, their terminal might not look like this. It probably doesn't look like this. I configure mine to have some different colors that make it easier for me to read, which is the most basic probably way to do it. But you can configure your bash terminal for a lot of different things. So you can include aliases so that you only have to type something small, but it actually will run a much longer script or command. You can configure authentication tokens for different services like Git and GitHub. Let's start out with the colors. So for the colors, the first thing we're going to look for is this .bash profile and .bash rc. So again, pwd, I'm in projects. I need to cd back into my main user directory. And I'm going to do ls-al. So I see I have bash history and bash sessions, but since I haven't used the bash rc or bash profile file yet, they're not on this user. They're not in this user account. If those files exist or not by default will depend on your operating system. So Linux, you probably already have those. Mac, you might not. That's okay. We're just going to create them. So we know how to create files. touch.bashrc and touch.bash_profile. Bash profile is executed for login shells, and bash rc is executed for interactive non-login shells, meaning bash profile is going to have those authentication tokens that we talked about, whereas bash rc is going to have more just general configurations in it. Okay, so I'm going to open up that bash rc. I'm not going to do it in Vim. I'm actually going to use my favorite text editor, which is Atom. And to do that, I'm going to go to Atom. There is a way to configure Atom, so it's you just Atom space in the file name. I haven't done that. Let's see if it'll work just by default. Atom space dot. Oh, great. So Atom space anything will open up that specific file. Dot in bash, like I just did, means current directory. So let's open the current directory. So everything I see on the left-hand side here is the same I would see in ls-al. I'm going to open up this bash rc file in Atom, and I'm going to copy this, which I'll put in the video description here. Oh, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to put that in the bash profile. So what this does is, this is making sure that we only are sourcing the bash rc from the bash profile. If bash doesn't know where to look, it might not behave how you'd expect it to. You might get some different errors and bugs. So this is making sure that the bash profile is always looking for the bash rc to make sure it's taking whatever configurations are there into account also. So I'll save that change in my bash profile. Now when I log into any machine from a console, this bash rc is automatically going to be called. Let's go ahead and configure some colors. Let me pull up these different colors here. This is what I'm looking at. So I'll put a link to this little gist of code. So it's a little bit different depending on your operating system. Since I'm on a Mac, I'm going to add this to the bash profile. So here's this script. So this is going to be affecting my Git output specifically. So I could do that or this one here. So this is specifically for Git. Copied one, I'll put that in bash profile. I'll put this hash sign I'm putting here is comment. Colors for Git output, and I'll paste that in and save. And I also want to, so this is something I got from a friend. I'll save that, get rid of that, and then back in the bash RC, let's try colors for other text. Let's try this. Now here, let's open up terminal again. There we go. Okay, so CLI color 1 enables coloring of your terminal, and then the ls colors specifies how to color specific items. Okay, there we go. So there's a lot of different ways you can, customize this so that the output is much different. Here we do pwd, it's still black, ls-al. Here we see how, certain things look different based on if they're a directory or if they are just a file. Customizing your prompt and configuring things goes a lot deeper than this. What you can do is absolutely massive. But the most important thing to know is that you find those customizations in your .bashrc and your .bash profile. Okay, let's move on to something else. Let's talk about the internet. So I'm going to type clear here. Clear is just a terminal shell bash command to literally clear off everything that's on the terminal so that you have a fresh start. Clear. All right. So you can interact with the internet and other networks from bash. That means, whatever program you're using can interact with the internet. You'd usually want to do this to check the network connectivity or speed. So if I type ping google.com, that tells me how fast my internet connection is really quickly. I'm going to press Control, hold it down, and then click C to exit that. So if you're ever stuck in a mode, it's either VI mode, right? And then you would do escape:WQ, or something like this where there's an operation running a system task. Then I would do Control and C to exit that. So interacting with the internet, a lot of different CLI tools will access the internet. Git is a great example of this. So I'd have my remote repository on github.com, my local repository on my computer. I can interact with that entirely from bash, and that will be done via the internet. So just remember, anything that you do in the shell, right, you are not automatically just on your own computer, which is a great thing, but also good to know in case you might be making changes to something. Let's move on to what else can you do from bash. So we've done quite a bit already, right? We've created files, we've navigated around, we know how to get out of V and get out of VI and get into VI. Let's talk about how to do some more advanced things, mostly scripts. So as an example, I would like to show you this script, and we're gonna create it, we're gonna run it, we're gonna make it work. So this script here, this example is what I use before I teach class that I was talking about. It quits certain applications, it hides my doc, because I really don't want Slack notifications coming up while I'm teaching a class. And it opens certain applications, so mouse pose and moom, which are things I use to show my mouse and move windows around. Make sure those are open. Make sure certain browsers are open, and it even triggers other scripts like the teach class script. One that we're going to create is really simple. So here we see the top line is this # bin bash. That just tells bash that this file is actually a bash script. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to bash here. I'm going to cd out of this repository. So I'm back in projects. You can see that here. I'm going to, let's take a look at this script. Okay, so it's just a good morning world. So I'm going to touch good morning. So I just created a file called good morning. And I'm going to vi good morning. So now I'm in VI, okay? Next, let's insert. So I type I so that we're in insert mode. And at the top, it's that pound exclamation bin slash exclamation slash bin slash bash. Enter clear. I'm going to just clear the prompt, right? Like you could do as any standalone command. And echo, which we haven't talked about yet, echo just has the terminal, has bash print out exactly what's in quotes. So echo good morning world will then have the terminal print that out. Echo is a really, really useful command when you're working with shell scripts, because frequently through your scripts you might want to know, like a console log kind of thing, what's going on. I want to have this as feedback. This message will print out at a certain time during my script. So that's good, looks good. I hit escape, WQ, and exit. Now, let's see the moment of truth. We've created this script. If I just type good morning, let's see what we expect. It says command not found. Let's talk a little bit about all these letters at the beginning. So back in the terminal here, if I do ls-al, we see at the beginning of these files, all these drw, xr, slash, those are impacting our ability to run that script as a command. So chmod and file folder permissions. So this first blank indicates the file type, whether it's a directory with a D or just a slash as a regular file. From then we have these three other groups. One for the owner, members of the group, and all other users. So that means any given file might have different permissions for other people on the computer. As an owner, I might be able to do something, but then if somebody else logged into the machine, they would only be able to, read that file. They couldn't execute whatever that script was. So what we want to do, if we take a look at our newly created script, which is called Good Morning, nowhere is it executable. We have R, read access, W, write access for the owner, so I'm allowed to make edits. No one else can make edits even. But we want to have X. I'm not so concerned of if other users have any access to this file. I just want to have access right now. So what I'm going to do is type chmod plus X and then the file name. So if I do ls-al, now I see Good Morning has this X next to it. Now it's red because it's an executable script. Instead of just good morning, we're going to do dot, periods slash good morning. And it cleared the terminal and did good morning world. So earlier it wasn't working because I was just typing good morning. And remember, when we're navigating throughout the terminal, it is relative, right? It matters where we are. So it didn't know exactly where to look for good morning here, but when we do dot slash, meaning go back directory and then look for the slash, then good morning, or current directory and slash, then we're in good shape. Then it knows exactly where to look. So obviously this is a very simple script example, but that's how easy it is. Anything that you run in any command can be put inside of a shell script, whether it's basic shell, language things, or API calls or other programs. So a lot to know here. There's a lot to be done. Thank you. Hopefully you feel better about using Bash. Hopefully you feel like you can not be so afraid of using your terminal.